check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Welcome to the Expansion Project. I am your host, Fat Tony. In this show, I have casual yet deep conversations with professional athletes, entrepreneurs, coaches, investors, and other successful people in hopes of expanding my mind and yours while motivating and inspiring people along the way. Today, I was able to get on Skype with none other than Jamie Bestwick. Jamie is a fascinating person with so many layers to him. He's a husband and a father. He's a business owner and entrepreneur. He has a foundation in his name. He races motorcycles and Baja trucks. He does long-distance cycling. He's an on-air sports analyst for NBC. And on top of all of that, he's the greatest BMX vert rider to ever live. I know that's a bold statement, and although there's really nowhere to get an accurate fact check on it, I don't think you'll find many people within the BMX community who would disagree with it. Jamie has a collection of X Games gold medals that runs 12 deep and has won every Dew Tour year-end title since the event's inception in 2005. When people watch Jamie drop into a vert ramp, they can immediately tell that he's on a completely different level than other people. There's really no two ways about it. He's simply the best to ever do it. Jamie was a little short on time today, so we skipped on the catching up, we skipped the chime-in segment, and we skipped the quick hit questions and got straight into the good stuff. Although I'd love to talk to Jamie about business and all the other things he has going on in his life, that will have to wait until we can do a part 2, because this time around I focused the conversation on Jamie's mindset and mental game when it comes to competing at such a high level. Sit back, relax, and soak up some knowledge from Mr. Jamie Bestwick. I know there's a big difference to me in terms of people that are really good bike riders and what I would consider a top athlete. And I think in the sport of BMX, a lot of people kind of find it hard to call themselves athletes. But I think in your case, you train and compete like an athlete and you win at a different level than most BMX riders. So I'm going to talk to you as a professional athlete and a top-level athlete. So one of the things I want to get right out the way is probably something you're sort of used to talking about, is your age. I think a lot of people typically think of BMX as a younger guy's sport. So what do you think it is in you that allows you to compete and train and win at such a high level at your age?
Stubbornness. I'm just very reluctant to give up on this dream that I've got of, being a BMX rider. It's something that I daydreamed about at work. It's something that consumed my every thought. In my teens and in my 20s, I just, had huge aspirations of riding my bike every day. Mm-hmm. And, obviously, I'm just from a background of, being a little bit more realistic. And at that time, there weren't opportunities to kind of fulfill my dream. So, the working world was for me in order to feed my habit of riding BMX bikes. But, I think with the advent of the big contest series and the X Games and so on and so forth, it just gave me an opportunity to live out my dream of becoming a BMX rider. And to this day, I'm very reluctant to give it up, I am older, I'm 43, whether a lot of people get pissed off by that or they get inspired by that, that's by the wayside, because for me, I'm still living my dream. Every day I wake up, I know I'm going to ride BMX that day, so it's always going to be a good day for me. Mm-hmm. And, I've worked so hard to make the dream come to fruition, so I don't want to wake up in the morning and just squander those opportunities. I want to maximize on it. I mentally still feel like I'm 21 years old, mm-hmm. even though my body at times is screaming at me to stop. But, this dream and this ride is so great that, I just do everything I can in order to keep that momentum going and keep that dream alive.
So how much, you talked about your body kind of screaming to stop at you. How much does taking care of your body physically with working out or diet and nutrition, how much does that play into you still being able to physically do this?
It plays a huge part for me because, obviously I'm competing against guys that are half my age and, while they can go out and have a skinful of beer the night before and just go rage it up till 3 a.m, my body just can't process that anymore. It's just, it doesn't work like it used to. And, so I have to kind of rely on, kind of healthy eating and moderation and, obviously being physically fit is something that takes a while. And, when you introduce it into your riding schedule, but, I think being open to the world of fitness and open to stretching and different types, like yoga. I never thought I'd be doing yoga or, kind of high impact training. That's kind of led me to, wanting to open my own facility with my wife. I mean, we opened PYP 2 years ago, and I'm not the only X Games athlete that trains there now. There's others that go there. There's motocross riders. There's, professional mountain bikers and road cyclists. And I think they've seen in me that, taking good care of myself, watching what I eat, doing the work, it all benefits me when, I go out to ride my bike, and ultimately when I compete, they can see the difference. And, it just, that part of me I feel is inspiring to others. They've taken it upon themselves now to, not so much get serious and, like training like, some high school jock. And I guess that's the, kind of affiliation that everybody always leans towards when they hear the words training and BMX in the same context. But, they've just seen that, by taking care of yourself, you can prolong your career in whatever sport you want. And who doesn't want to prolong their career? Who doesn't want to, be involved in something so great as BMX for as long as they can?
Yeah, that was actually one of the other things I wanted to ask you about is how have you seen a transition in other athletes when it comes to training and diet and nutrition? Because I see it, but I'm not sure if it's because now that I'm interested in it personally, I kind of look for it more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see like Kyle Baldock and Logan Martin, some of these park riders that are training now, and I know Rob Darden was real big on that for a while and still is. So to me, it seems like more people are coming around to it. But again, is that because I'm just more in tune to that particular aspect of it now, and that's what I'm paying attention to? Or is it actually becoming more prevalent in the sport?
I just think that BMX in this day and age has become increasingly demanding. The tricks have become more complex, and the ramps are demanding even more of the riders on a physical level. As well as a riding level. So, it's in their best interest to go out there and not only take care of themselves from a physical standpoint, but also a mental standpoint too. So, they're going out, they're doing the work, they're not turning themselves into, kind of amateur bodybuilders. They're just seeing that there's definitely, when you don't train, there's a time limit of what you can give into, riding that day, a performance in a contest. So, people are starting to do the work, and they can see that it has a mental advantage too. If they feel physically fit outside of this sport, it gives that extra confidence to know that, like I'm putting some strength in these muscles. I've got more endurance. I've got that little extra padding to take that hit. Like I've got it. I've got these tricks. I can do it. And it's that confidence that leads to, huge breakthroughs in BMX and progression through tricks in our sport. So, and that's just by being physically fit. So why wouldn't these guys want to take it a little bit more serious?
Yeah.
These are the best in the world right now. These are the guys we look to kind of move BMX forward. And, it doesn't, it doesn't just stop at park riders. It's not like an exclusive thing for like vert riders and park riders and flatlanders. I know a lot of the street riders all kind of do, physical fitness exercises. They take care of themselves. They stretch a lot. And I think it's a lot more than, kind of the industry would like to let on, I mean, it's not like everybody's on some health kick all of a sudden, but, you've got strong guys like Kaczynski and Dakota Roach, and, they take care of themselves outside of the sport because they see it has a huge benefit when they go out street riding and they can put an all-day session in with no problem. They go home, they eat well, and they go do the same thing all over again the next day.
Yeah. So you were talking about how the mental aspect of training kind of plays into the physical aspect of riding and stuff, which was a really interesting tie-in. So let me ask you this about the mental aspect of it. I've heard people talk about when they train, they're physically doing something tough, so mentally they're like, okay, I'm doing something hard. Then when they maybe go back on their bike or do whatever sport they're going to do, they know that they've already done other things that are tough and that they can push through like the tough parts of riding or whatever other sport it is as well. Do you see any of that coming into play?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the big things we teach at PYP, my wife's studio, is, it's about those days where, where mentally you feel you can't carry on. Mm-hmm. And that ultimately is the one factor that will lead you to failure, because your brain's telling you to shut it down. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so many things going against you right now. Shut it down and just walk away, or just, take a knee. And it's like, no, like, honestly, you get past that point, good things are going to happen. Mm-hmm. When you take yourself mentally over that hurdle, you know that you've done it in an area where you can, just stop. And this is not a life or death situation. This is just working out with other like-minded people and somebody encouraging you to get over that hurdle. And you can stop. You don't have to do it. But when you take that chance and when you move forward and you break that barrier, that's huge for when you're riding a bike. Like, there are so many mental blocks when you're out there riding a bike every day. You know what, I'm not going to do that trick today. I'm going to save it till tomorrow. Training and working the mind in that way to encourage yourself, don't leave it till tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Fire it out today. Like, you're super confident, you've got everything you need, in order to pull this trick right now. Get it done today. Don't wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow could be another day. Mm-hmm. So it's about telling yourself repeatedly and breaking those barriers, in a class environment, in a training environment, wherever it is. It's about telling yourself to go that extra mile, to jump that hurdle, to break through, and essentially that will translate into whatever sport you're doing, because when that moment comes, and it will come, it comes for everybody. When the moment comes, you'll be able to just smash through. Mm-hmm. You'll do it because you've been there before. You've been asked that question before and you answered it.
Yeah. Can you tell me about a time in your life when you've been really at your breaking point, either mentally and physically? And I'll give a quick story of mine. I've asked this question to a few people on the podcast now, but I've never shared one of my stories. So I was in Guatemala on just a traveling vacation a couple years ago, and I started the trip out with a little bit of a cold, and we were hiking up a mountain and going to camp there, and we had to carry our own pack. And, of course, me being a photographer, I had extra gear than everybody else. We had our tents, our sleeping bags, food, like clothes, the whole deal. But I also had like 25 pounds of camera gear, and tripods and everything. And we hiked for probably, I think, like 9 straight hours, like just straight up this mountain. And a lot of it was volcanic ash that when you took a step, it just crumbled away like sand. And at the end of this 9 hours, they were like, okay, well, now we can like drop everything off, and then we can go another hour and a half up to the like actual summit of the volcano. And at that point, I still wanted to carry my camera gear because it's like I've come this far. But it was freezing cold at that point. It was starting to like get a little bit wet and misty. And mentally I just broke down. I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore. Like, I'm physically exhausted. I've had this cold. My legs are just so sore. My back is so sore from all this gear. But it was one of those things where it's like, I've come this far and I can't turn back now. And I was just completely broken down. So can you tell me a story in your life or your career where you've just been mentally and or physically just at your breaking point?
I've probably got a couple instances. One's off, both of them include bikes, but one's kind of away from BMX and one's in BMX. But, a few years ago, we rode from central England to northern Italy. We did a charity ride, and kind of every 6 to 8 hours, I was out on the road putting 50, 60 miles in with a team of guys, and then we'd relay with another group of guys. Mm-hmm. And I remember on the third day, we got up at 5 a.m. to do our leg, but the leg of the ride was, it was 18 kilometers up St. Bernard's Pass, and anybody who is familiar with St. Bernard's Pass in Switzerland it's a super high peak, and I think it averages 8% most of the way. We woke up at 5 a.m. and it was torrential rain, and it was 48 degrees. And so we started in torrential rain, and it just never let up for the entire ride. And I didn't really have wet weather gear on. My gloves were pretty shoddy. I had a rain jacket on, but it wasn't doing much good. And for the best part of 3 hours, I trudged up this mountain until we got about 2/3 of the way, and then it dropped down to 28 degrees. Oh. And there was snow, there was ice, and everybody in the group started to freeze, and, I basically felt like, what, I'm going to shut this ride down. Like, I really can't continue. Like, I couldn't feel my hands. We started to shiver, but, a part of me was like, just keep going. Like, keep going. At the time, my friend Brandon Ream was going through cancer, and I was like, all you're doing is riding a bike. Mm-hmm. Like, you do this for a living. Get your ass up this mountain. And, it was slow, it was painful, but for the last, I'd say, 5 kilometers, it was insanely steep. But the most encouraging part about it was that I'd seen this ride on TV, and I'd seen professionals do it. And the further up the mountain I got, the harder it became, and the mental aspect was just debilitating, as well as my legs were just on fire. Like, I had no physical strength left, but I started reading the writing on the roads, and the minute I saw the writing on the roads, I knew I was near the top. And for some reason, my legs started to speed up. And I started hammering out probably the past mile and a half until I literally saw this one piece of writing on the road, and it just said COL and an arrow pointing upwards. And I was like, that's the top. So we rode, we got to the top, and there was no celebration, there was no everybody high-fiving. Like, I literally had to peel my hands off the road bike, and my hands were still kind of gripped around the handlebars because they were froze. And the only thing I managed to do was start crying, and I whipped out, what was left of the battery life on my GoPro, and I just made a message for Brandon Ream. But that was just one of those instances where, everything's telling you to stop, and it's like, how can you? Like, how can you stop 3/4 of the way up a mountain? That's like, knowing you can get 12 feet on a vert ramp, but stopping at the coping and going, oh, that's enough for me.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
that's
funny.
Cool, great, I love the transition, but I don't want to go that high.
Yeah.
So it was just a moment, and in BMX, I've rode through countless injuries, having broken my neck, and, coming back to ride a do tour 6 weeks later, the doctors, anybody that I saw was like, don't you dare touch that bike. Don't you ride those ramps. Don't you do this. And, for a while I listened to them and I was like, no, like that's it. I'm done. End of story. Like we're quitting BMX. We're going to go do something safe. But, mental toughness and strength are an incredible factor in you just plowing through a boundary. And, after 5 weeks, I was walking the treadmills, I was lifting weights, and week 6, I was out in Louisville, Kentucky, riding the do tour, and everything I did was a complete gamble. Mm-hmm. I look back now, it's the most stupidest thing I ever done, but at the time, it was a huge hurdle for me, and I was like, I can do this. Like, I know I can do it. I'm just being asked a question right now that's incredibly difficult to answer, but I know at the right time I'll be able to give the right answer and I'll smash it. Mm-hmm. And I did. And you know what? It's something that I always kind of, when I'm in that situation and I'm being pushed or I see a some kind of challenge through a trick that's a roadblock, I always think back to certain instances and say to myself, how did you push through that time? Like, it was scary, yeah, but how did you push through? And I just remember those moments where it was like, just do it. Like, trust yourself. You've got everything going, against you, but there's something inside yourself that says you can do this. And if you just go with your gut instinct, absolutely, you're just going to come flying through it.
Yeah. It's interesting and almost a little bit funny that both of us have a story of, kind of overcoming a mental and physical block like that involving getting up a mountain, because that is the cliche of, climbing mountains. And
yeah.
Apparently there's a reason why that's the cliche. But moving on here, this could be a very, very lengthy question, and hopefully we can dig pretty deep into this. But let's talk about how you mentally prepare for a competition. Does this start months or weeks or days before competition? Is it something that is kind of always in the back of your mind? Tell me a little bit about your mental process.
The mental process of getting ready for competition. I think, it's just, it's every day. It never shuts off, I'm always thinking about riding. I've got my headphones on when I'm working out, or, I'm taking a class, or a cycling class, or I'm out on the road bike, or I'm riding BMX, I'm always thinking about, like, a contest and in my head, like, just running scenarios, but they're not kind of like the scenarios where I fail. It's always the scenario where I succeed. And I thrive on those kind of positive thoughts and good moments, because it's almost like I'm running a Rocky movie through my head every time I go out and do something. It's like, it's never like, some sad story. It's always like, yeah, I'm going to have to work hard for this, but here we go. And, everything goes to plan. And I'm like, sweet. And, that's it. Like, you're the guy, or I'll be the guy. And I'm like, yeah, I pulled it. Cool. So I'm always just trying to, kind of stay on that positive mindset and just, think good thoughts. And, that's pretty much every day, I mean, I was at the gym this morning, I had my headphones on, and all I could think about was just, the tricks I'm going to do this afternoon, and when I pull it, like, how am I going to feel after I pull it? Like, am I going to be stoked? Of course I'm going to be stoked. This trick that I'm going to do this afternoon is going to be pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So, I'm always, like, thinking, like, yeah, like, that'll be rad, or, just feeding off everybody else's excitement in a session and doing things, that kind of scare me, but I know that when I do them, it's going to be a great feeling. So, that mindset, I think you never really turn off. It's not like I wake up January 1st and I'm like, all right, 6 months till Texas, here we go, and then it's game face, and I guess in years gone past that maybe, I could see where, the competition draws closer. Maybe I do go a little kind of quiet, and I kind of get drawn inwards a little bit. But it's just because I think, I'm just kind of concentrating all my efforts on, like, being at that contest.
Right, just sort of focusing.
Just trying to internalize everything, like, okay, like at this point, like, I've thought great things, and then I'm just kind of mapping out, like, all right, when I go here, I'm going to do this, and I'm just running sequences through my head, and kind of thinking, like, that every trick, even if I do it wrong, always has a get-out-of-jail-free card. So I'm on to the next one. So I'm trying to constantly run scenarios through my head, but yeah, no, I mean, every day you're competing, whether you want to admit that or not. You're out on your bike and you're always trying to better your situation on that bike, whether it's through tricks or through something else. You're always trying to progress, and in some way, shape, or form, progressing is a way of competing with yourself.
Yeah. So leading up to the actual competition, we talked about it's a mindset that just never shuts off. But as you get close to the competition, or maybe the morning of or day of, do you have any kind of pre-event rituals that you do, or any superstitions, or just kind of just normal habits that you go through in order to get ready for a competition?
I don't know. I could sit here and tell you no, but I probably do. They're just kind of, some things that I just do, kind of,
Maybe just ingrained in you, kind of?
Yeah, yeah, probably wear the same pants or the same boxer shorts,
right.
or, wear the same cologne, or, yeah, I don't know, just, I probably do have superstitions. I know I always go and talk to the ramp before I get there, I just go and have a chat with the ramp, and just, kind of give it a warning, like, if you beat me up today, I'll set you on fire. So, but no, I'm sure I do have kind of those rituals, but I tend not to. Subconsciously, I probably do them without even thinking. But it's just one of those deals.
So, being at the level that you're at, you don't have a lot of other peers in your sport that are at your level, and maybe you don't want to put that in your own words, but I'm going to say that because, let's just look at the track history, So do you kind of look at other sports and other elite athletes in other fields and kind of get inspiration from them, or feed off of them, or take, kind of success stories from them?
It's hard not to, you look at action sports, and I think the general public feels that there are no inspiring people that come from the action sports world, but I think our world is full of inspiring people. We've got guys who have broken records. We've got guys who are kind of, they're pop culture, like, they're ingrained into society, and I find that very inspiring. And I just look at those people, and, I'm not so much trying to emulate them, but I'm like, wow, like, that's great. Look where they came from, and look where they are now, and look at the profound effect they're having on people's day-to-day lives. They're changing the perception of action sports on a daily basis, and I find that really inspiring. And I guess in that way, I try and emulate in that respect. Of course, I want to change people's perception on action sports. I want them to see that, if you think the Dallas Cowboys train hard, we're not just a bunch of dropouts who sit and kind of mooch around the house and then, come out at 3 o'clock and go kill it. I'm like, we're busy people too. We're training, we take it seriously, and we show up at events, and, it's game time. And, for me, I look at guys who change that perception, and I find that inspiring. And there are so many guys out there. People that I've kind of looked up to over the years. Tony Hawk, Bob Burnquist. Dave Mirra was, a great role model to kind of look at. People will always kind of look at him maybe for the wrong reasons. Like, he brought the corporate aspect of things into this world, but they're absolutely wrong, because he took action sports to places that had never been before. He educated the masses. He went out there and put, the people that didn't necessarily tune into what we were doing in front of us. And to me, that was the biggest gift a lot of us could ever ask for. And to this day, I feel he's been a huge contributor to the success of contests like X Games. Like, he brought the people in.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Outside of action sports, do you follow any other top-tier athletes? Like, do you read a biography about Tiger Woods or watch documentaries about Bo Jackson or any of these other top athletes that you might kind of pull from?
I don't want. I like Tiger Woods. He's a great player. I love Lance Armstrong. Amazing athlete, and I do kind of read cycling books. George Hincapie. Robert Miller, all those guys. So I am, really interested in that aspect. Valentino Rossi. I'm a huge Valentino Rossi fan. Anybody familiar with motorbike racing knows the name Valentino Rossi. I think he's again just another inspiring person. He brought the people into motorbike racing, and I think. There are other guys, too many to name. I'm always seeing people in different areas and going, wow, look at that. The new guy on the block, Mark Marquez, in motorcycle racing. This kid he's barely 20, and he's just doing things that are just astounding and changing the rules of motorbike racing. So, every day you find a new inspiration in a new athlete. But translating that into your own world, is sometimes difficult, because there are challenges in our world that they don't see, because their demographic is so much different to ours. Our demographic is the young kids, and it's about translating what you find into others. It's about translating what you get inspired by in others into your sport and your demographic, and it's about passing that on to kids, but from your own perspective, and something that they get. Like, when we ride with young kids, just to kind of show them the passion behind BMX riding, and to show them it's not all contests and medals and things like that, and that's great, and it's something to behold, but it's about riding bikes too. At the end of the day, if everything was stripped away tomorrow, we'd still be riding bikes. I'd still be searching for new tricks. I'd still get stoked when Carl Baldock puts a 5-second Instagram clip on. Just things like that are never going to go away. So it's about telling, my BMX generation that's around now, like, this is why we do it. This is where you find your inspiration.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So I know you've got somewhere to be, and I want to be respectful of your time. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Can you sign off with a favorite quote, or maybe a favorite piece of advice that someone's given you over the years?
I don't know. Like, I don't know if I have a favorite quote.
Is there anything that maybe you kind of keep as a mantra, or maybe tell to yourself on a regular basis, or just a few words of wisdom that you live by at all?
Yeah, the missus chimed in.
What did she say?
She's right. What she just said was right. Anything's possible. You got it. I more than often say that to myself, you know, whether I'm at the biggest contest of the year or whether I'm about to ride in and do something for the first time, you know, you have to tell yourself, like, you know, wash those doubts away. Like, 5 seconds from now, you'll be high-fiving and screaming at the top of your lungs that you just accomplished something that 5 seconds ago you didn't think was possible. Mm-hmm. Until you gave yourself that encouragement, that nod of approval, that slap on the back. You know, anything's possible, bro. You got this.
Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to let you go. Do you want to give a plug for any social networks or anything like that where people can find you to learn more about you?
Yeah, you know, just I'm not sure you'll learn much about me on my Instagram page, but, you know, at Jamie Bestwick on Instagram, and same thing on Twitter, at Jamie Bestwick, and the Jamie Bestwick fan page on Facebook. You know, obviously social media is the biggest part of our lives today, although I wish it wasn't. I wish we had magazines and we waited for videos to come out monthly. Bring back the good old days, that's what I say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for making the time today. You know, hopefully we can get you back on here because you have so much to talk about. You know, I only scratched the surface of some of the mindset stuff and competition stuff I wanted to talk about, but also your business and entrepreneurial stuff that I would love to hear more about as well. But hopefully we can talk about that another day. So until next time, thank you again, Jamie, and tell the missus and your son I said hello, and you have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was Jamie Bestwick. I'm always so excited to talk to Jamie. He is just so well-spoken and has such a great perspective on so many things, and he's just a great all-around guy. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. And until next time, you can follow me on social networks at FatTonyBMX, and you can check out the show online at theexpansionprojectpodcast.com, and of course, subscribe on iTunes. I'll be dropping a new episode every week or so. Thanks, and we'll catch you next time.